the question how new technologies, in particular AI, will change the future of work, the future of adding value. But now we do not want to have a technical discussion. What we want to do is we want to dare something, namely go to risky voyage into the future. All of us make assumptions about the future, and all of us, of course, have certain biases. We are really bad in forecasting. It's ever so difficult for us because we have a confirmation and hindsight biases that give us the feeling that really we know pretty well in our own domain where we are experts how things can develop in the future. And in studies, you can see it. That's not really the case. And what we try to do, I do that with my team at the Institute for Information and Technology, with certain methods. We as futurologists try to bring in certain methods, try to support people to come up with structured ideas about the future, and if possible, come a bit closer to what would actually be happening in the future. I want to introduce you to 5 scenarios as to how 2030 could look like. In order to do so, we'll take a look into industrial companies. We'll see one picture for everything. We did it with an agency, and we try to find out how does a company look like in 2030 and what's the interaction between people and technology. Why did we develop 5 scenarios? Well, as futurologists, we don't try to tell you this is what the world will be like in 2030. We will try to explore potential future scenarios that open a discussion. What type of future do we want in normative terms, and where's the delta between the future we wish for and where we stand today? And to this end, first of all, I'd like to establish the initial situation, briefly talk about what's being discussed now, then I'll give you a bit of information on the scenarios, and then I'll present these scenarios to you. And one scenario we drill down deeper that you might not like, that's the ambivalent scenario. That's a scenario where experts say that is the most likely one to happen. And this chart describes what we've discussed quite at length today. How does technology design work? Maybe also in your companies. For decades, we see in research and in technology design that a shift of paradigm is being demanded, that from technology-centered you go to human-centered technology. It sounds rather abstract, but what it means here is you see on top what the traditional way is that things are happening. In many companies, you come from the technology decision. As a company, we introduce a certain AI system because on the trade fair I've seen it works, it helps to solve a problem. Then this technology is developed, and then it comes into the application stage. And very often the users, the employees who are supposed to work with it, are only integrated in the middle step with the development, and sometimes even only with the application stage being near. And from research we know that it's very good and meaningful to start integrating people right from the start. That's what you see below. Even with the analysis of what we need to do it, I see on the trade fair technology, that's great. That doesn't help me. Do I have a problem that I want to solve with that I have to solve with that? And is that technology the solution to solve that particular problem? Or maybe I don't even know technology. Maybe organizational innovation is necessary, or maybe I need a different technology that's being produced here. Now, I don't want to bash this trade fair, so let's just go on. Say, in this project, we asked ourselves how, from this human-centered approach that has been proclaimed as like, how does that become reality? We developed set scenarios that's here in order to open up a discourse. You are allowed to come in here and discuss it with me. We are looking forward to any type of feedback, and we like to be in a critical, constructive dialogue to find out what we can do to reach your desired scenarios. This was created in a strategic forecast scenario for the Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. IIT is the contract partner who works with the federal government. We've done this with lots of experts, and one of the experts who was participating is right here at the front, Andrea Althaus. Thank you so much for the support. Judith Pataka has just said she wishes for the transformation scenario to happen, and this is what we see. We assume that technology develops dynamically. The many promises that ChatGPT and other systems bring us are becoming true. Technology, AI, is very well performing in 2030. Companies are using this technology and the performance in order to have better processes, in order to develop better products, and to have better human-machine interfaces. And employees are participating in the development of this technology. You see, it looks pretty modern, and we did it deliberately because we take it. If there would be a huge integration of AI systems and employees can move in, then the image and the view of industrial systems and companies will change. Many activities that we know now will no longer exist, but lots of new tasks will come up. We could talk about the challenges that come up here. What do we do with all the employees that formerly worked in a different scenario in the world of work today? Where do we find them here? That's a responsibility for further qualification, culture development, etc. That's something which we could discuss. It's very ambivalent, but that's the scenario here. The experts who participated said that would be really desirable, just as Judith Pataka said. Automation is the scenario, business as usual without any particular ambition. We take it that the promises for AI won't come. We have an AI hype now. We take it we move into an AI winter. Performance capability doesn't develop that much. It's probably not as good and can't be implemented in concrete applications. So the last mile from the very well working generating AI system into application would be a problem. We have a very traditional company structure. We take it this could happen if companies stick to having technology decisions at the outset, do that in the management levels, have a strong hierarchical level, don't integrate your employees, and that this is not just done by one company, but by the major part of companies. So the company would not have the incentive to change because the networks and everyone around would just stay in an as-is status. Then we have the Industry 4.0 status. Scenario we deliberately called it that. Industry 4.0 is a kind of old thing. Do we really have it? That was started 10 years ago. Of course, you can discuss it critically, but here we take it that technology would develop in a rather powerful way, just like with the transformation scenario. But the difference between this and the transformation scenario is that here the workforce in the world of work would not benefit as strongly from the new technology. In economic terms, the company will benefit, which is good for employees because they have safe jobs, good jobs, and they are mainly alleviated in their work by intelligent systems. But only a small number of people gains competences and has the possibility to shape things. And the people on the shop floor, you see that alluded to here, are supported by intelligent exoskeletons and by cognitive systems, but they simply basically do their job. They can't say, look, today I want to come up with my idea and I want to be instrumental in developing my organization. They're mainly just doing their jobs for which they're being used. Then we have the platform economy scenario, which is something a bit out of the box here. we assume that in the B2B area, we reduce the structure that has come up in the B2C area. We would have an Amazon or Amazonization, or Netflix would be just something which would be coming into the B2B world. So the core of industrial value production would be dominated by large platforms. We have asked ourselves, how could the world of work look like if all the companies that are on the trade fair here would only be integrated into an overarching platform system that they have to rely on when they want to get jobs and offers, like book dealers trade has experience with Amazon. So a power concentration for overarching platforms. This might sound rather abstract. Suppose it's not desirable for you. For the workers, in concrete terms, it would mean the technology decision about which technology would be used would go even further away from the employees. It's lamentable enough if it's only decided by the bosses which type of technology will be used, but at least the bosses will be in your local company or somewhere in Germany or somewhere in Europe in a group that you belong to. In this picture, we decide that the technology decision is taken on the overarching platform level and will be even further removed from the employees. You see the example today, like when you are a driver for Uber, you don't have any say in how the system looks like, how it's done, how it's designed. So here we thought about what can happen if that happens for industry as well. Now, and this scenario I want to spend some time on with you. It's the ambivalence scenario. See a couple of elements that you maybe know from companies, from industrial companies, but you also see a kind of openness. That's what this picture should show you. So what happened here? Well, here we have a situation where in the direct work environment, the alleviation potential for employees is realized. We discussed it already. People will alleviate it by their routine bodily activities and by cognitive activities. We take it that the technical possibilities to enhance the opportunities to act will not be realized to a great extent. I'll show you with a couple of examples what we mean. The company uses technologies to open up efficiency and alleviation potentials, and they create a new organization system. When you use a new efficiency enhancing technology, the companies will think about removing any type of burden from their employees. So this is why it's so ambivalent in many people who work in these types of activities would support this. And in general, the innovation system would want to develop technologies in a human-centered view. But what Judith Peterka described, the positive scenario, namely the mission orientation of politics and of science, would not be coming to fruition. So if that was too abstract for you, then we have scenarios here, one for white collar and one for blue collar workers. And we try to explain how, in this scenario, how the future workspace would look like. We try to translate this for a person who works in a purchasing department of an industrial company. So in the ambivalent scenario, this person works with an electronic ordering system that is mainly working with batch or dark production. So normal routine purchasing transactions would happen routinely, and the operator would only come in if the system says, look, I have a problem, I can't solve it. We know it from insurances and finances there. It's already been rolled out. So that, of course, means a major reduction of workload. And when it comes to lower and higher competence, for this you need a lot of competencies if the whole day you're only solving problems. Before you had more routine tasks. The majority of companies and employees see that employees have the monitoring function, and only very few lighthouse companies sponsored by the Federal Ministry for Labor and Social Affairs would see the workplace differently. So the workplace could be in another scenario could be looking more positively. People who work with the e-ordering system in the role model company would see, oh, a certain supplier with whom we had contracts for a longer period of time at some point in the world has used a different incoming material for the work piece, and it's got advantages. And the purchasing person maybe comes to the idea, oh, I'm the only person who has this information, because usually you have rather limited contact with information. And this person in the purchasing department could give the signal to the development department, look, there's a new work material from this supplier, check it, whether this would be something to develop our product further. This is something which today is happening here or there, but it requires room for maneuver. It requires excellent access to information. Technical systems could give that, provided we have transparent supply chains. So that would be a clear expansion of their own activity, can make it more interesting, more exciting if you yourself are involved in the further development of your company. How could that look like in production? In production, in the ambivalent scenario, we take it that the multitude of employers and employees use the system in order to have people do the manual work. So it's the same, and you know that from industry today. Somewhere is an error, you go into error management, and maybe you are prompted through an AI system if you haven't done that very often. And that is quite a better idea, removes the burden from the employees, but you are just reacting, and only very few role model companies would use the last scenario here. In the role model company, employees that have a technical training and work on the shop floor could be given intuitive programming functionalities and thus cooperate in developing their products or processes further. So in an error detection process, you could have a haptic experience with a certain machine component or workpiece, and you could notice that there could be an idea if the workpiece would be fed into the machine another way. Or take another example that might be suitable for your work context. Today, you would have to go to the foreman and say, look, there is something here. Then the question would be whether the foreman is open enough and accepts the feedback and takes it seriously and moves it through the grapevine. Are there communication channels in the company that allows that? But such a system could support the employees to give to the design department the information. Look, guys, this is something which you would pay attention to. Maybe we can improve matters in the future. This can be done through intuitive programming or through other low-threshold interfaces, as they would be possible through ChatGPT and other generative AI systems. Now, you know that when you have programming environments in your companies, you know this is not something that you dare to use if you haven't worked with it. Even if you have to enter only a few parameters, this makes people shy away from it. And in the future, if through a generative AI system you could tell them, look, at machine A, Y, or Z, X, Y, or Z, I have found out that the workpiece is not going through smoothly, then I have an interface that is adapted to my natural communication needs, and the system structures the information and translates it in such a way that the design department could check as to whether this is something that you could work with and change. Now, that's the description of the field of tension that would possibly be happening in the ambivalent scenario in the future, and shows what the difference between that and positive scenarios is. What perspectives are there to act for companies? Of course, there are many for politicians as well. So for companies, first of all, it could help to rethink competitiveness. to center on humans in designing technology in most of the research projects. It's not a development goal, so that people work together as optimal as possible with machines. That's not the focus of R&D projects. That it's to implement this as an equal goal in research, it is one point to move forward. Without having the target to do it, we can't reach it. Then we are convinced that the potentials of AI are used. How can a human-machine interface be designed? It should be adaptive, context-sensitive, and understandable. So the system has to live up to my needs, and it's not I who should live up to the needs of the system. Then we need to secure experience and know-how and hand it over. There are certain possibilities to do so, in particular once the baby boomers retire. Generative AI systems could be very suitable to bring in know-how. People could be asked questions and give the answers. The system then structures the answers and uses that to create assistance systems that would then help future employees to learn that by using the know-how and get that in a visualized AR or VR version so that they benefit from the know-how of former colleagues. And estimating the consequences, that is really centrally important. That is linked to the first picture, and I come back to that in my last chart. In the human-centered technology, at the beginning we mentioned it, we need to analyze the requirements and then decide which type of system we need. There are great approaches by IFA where you get an application as a company, where you get some ideas as a company how you implement this. It is our appeal to you, please use it. Do it together with your employees. It's well worth it, because that way you can avoid longer development cycles. You can avoid problems of acceptance among your employees when you introduce technology. There are various possibilities to do so, but that should be a central element of technology development. I'd really like to speak out in favor of this. And if you want to take a look at the scenarios, why don't you take a photo of this, download this publication. It's free of charge. It comes from the Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the questions and the further course of the afternoon.